Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business.
All right. Today, really excited. We're going to have an interesting guest, very different from probably a lot of the ones I've had on here. Pai Charasika, who is a sports and entertainment wealth manager. He's also a very entrepreneurial guy, and he's actually got his fingers in a lot of things. But I'm really going to be interested to learn more about what he's doing, this unique twist on wealth management he's got. So, Pai, why don't you start off just introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about this journey?
Thanks, John. Name is Pai Charisika. Actually, the full name is Patamoyo, but I get stuck having conversations about Patamoyo a lot. So for the sake of time, I usually go with Pai. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. This is essentially something we started or spin off of the traditional investment firm about 3 years ago. I got licensed to become a sports entertainment accredited wealth manager and have been running with it ever since. My background really stems from being a financial advisor. When I graduated from Wake Forest in North Carolina, came back home and got into banking. I was with Nash City Bank for the better part of a year in their managerial trainee program. Stayed there for just shy of a year. Ultimately, I was assistant manager of their branch, and really just did not resonate with me. At the time, banks, this is 1998 to date myself, but at the time, banks were very, very interested in volume. It was key for us to sell people credit cards and loans, all as an ancillary product line to just their checking transaction. And a lot of cases we were doing that without knowing much about the given person. So it felt very impersonal, and I didn't really like that. And so ultimately I had a mentor in the business who suggested I take a look at financial advisory services, becoming a stockbroker. And if you can imagine, in 1999, I had no idea what that really even meant. Sure enough, turns out we were in a tech boom at the time.
Yeah.
Well, as I went to get licensed, I got licensed with my Series 7 and my Series 66. I got licensed through a firm called Payne Weber once upon a time.
Yeah.
Weber sent me to Weehawken, New Jersey for the better part of 3-4 weeks to become a broker, and came home March of 2000. And they handed me a highlighter and a phone book and said, go at it. Now, March of 2000 is the tech boom burst. That's when the bubble burst.
Yeah.
Trying to start as a financial advisor, essentially at age 22, just on the heels of a tech boom burst, where people were rocked by the market, was not the easiest thing to do. They essentially hand you a highlighter. They say, smile and dial, make $100 a day, try to get 10 contacts.
That's the old model.
Contacts. We want one appointment. And I was supposed to do that every single day. And I did for the next 2 years.
100 calls, you hope to get maybe one client out of it.
That's exactly right. And so I did that. I somehow powered through that to the extent that I was able to land an opportunity with a senior partner, and the rest was history. He mentored me and grew from there. So all the while, I never changed seats, but we went from Payne Weber to UBS Payne Weber to UBS. So I was a UBS financial advisor for the better part of 8 years, and my career went from there. So I spent a little bit of time in the regionals, Stifel Nicholas, Raymond James, and then took a break from the business, to be honest with you. About 4 or 5 years ago, I went through some personal things, had gotten divorced, and really was just tired from the business and walked away from it, and took on another role and realized within that role, man, I really like being a financial advisor. I've really enjoyed the entrepreneurial nature of being an advisor, because you do have the opportunity to really create and model a business the way you want. There was no place better to do that than on the independent side of our business. So
Okay.
I got back in what's called a registered investment advisor. So that's an RIA, but for a layperson, it's typically just called an independent firm. It means that we
Right.
essentially are fiduciaries for our clients. We do right by them, but ultimately we have total autonomy in terms of what we're doing for their journey. So we're not tied to any one particular investment strategy. We're not using proprietary funds of a given company. It's really agnostic and gives us the opportunity to really make the right decision for people. So that was really right up my alley in terms of what I wanted to do in modeling an entrepreneurial business. So really, really in line with kind of my personality. So that's where the business went. That firm is called Copperwood Financial. I've been with them for the last 3 or 4 years. And the managing partner of that firm, Larry Gates, asked me one day, he said, "Man, didn't you play football at Wake Forest? I see you got a couple of these guys that have come into our business as clients of yours. You should lean into that." And that's exactly what I did. At the time, I had a couple of clients that were former teammates of mine at Wake Forest that it kind of hit a rough patch. They had made millions of dollars in the NFL, and now 30 years later, those guys were struggling and didn't have budget and didn't have discipline around their cash flow.
Right.
And quite frankly, just were outspending their income. And
Right.
so as a result, they were depleting their resources and really in trouble. And so I came in to help them essentially guide their new strategy. And we built something there. I went from there and essentially got the designation through the College of Financial Planning to become a sports and entertainment accredited wealth manager. I got that designation about 2 years ago. In the state of Kentucky, as they told me, I'm one of 4 with that designation. Wow. So there are not many. That's not to toot my own horn. I think in Kentucky, most of the benefit in the past has been with our collegiate sports through University of Louisville and UK, University of Kentucky. And so the need to have sports entertainment advisors without pro teams, really not there. I bet you'll see a change in the guard here with the advent of NIL,
right,
high school NIL even, and some of those things. So that's a very long-winded way to suggest to you that we ended up building a silo, if you will, a subsidiary of Copperwood Financial called Pro Athlete Wealth. And Pro Athlete Wealth we built really in the last 2 years to focus on high school athletes, college athletes, professional athletes of all sorts who are interested in building their education around finances, and also to have an investment management arm coupled with a financial planning arm.
Yeah. That's very cool, very interesting. Because I mean, I've heard stories. They say a lot of professional athletes are the poorest millionaires on the planet. I think I've heard because they $1 million seems like a lot of money until you start living the lifestyle of a pro athlete.
That's exactly right. And the other consideration is taxes. I give an example of a guy that we have who is a rookie this year, made the game roster, made the team roster, received a bonus of, let's just call it $1 million. And by the time the federal's taxes, the state taxes, like everything involved in it, quite frankly, he got 40% of that. The net check to him was about $600,000. So his understanding, aptitude to understand that, very, very limited. When you're a kid who's 18, 19, call it 20 years old, someone says you're getting $1 million, you're like, I'm getting $1 million.
Oh yeah, he goes out and buys a $250,000 Ferrari, right?
So when that $600,000 came, he's like, "Where's the money? I don't get it." So we spent a lot of time explaining that, and we spent a lot of time educating about not only the tax burden but the expenses tied to what you're doing. Just the lifestyle you mentioned itself can be really overwhelming. Yeah. And if you've never had that kind of money before, how to manage that properly is a big part of that. We essentially became his bank. He essentially wires all the money to us, and then we set a discipline around it where we send him a stipend, if you will, per month, so he doesn't outspend himself based on what his friends want from him and things like that. So it's a big component of how we help manage or act as a steward for his money.
That's really interesting. So you mentioned NIL, and I'm a, here in Kentucky, I'm a college sports fan.
Sure.
It seems, I mean, it's changed the game more than anything in my lifetime. I mean, the last few years, I mean, college sports for half a century, it really didn't change that much. And then,
that's right.
Wow, it's completely changed it. What do you see on the landscape, and how are you trying to help that?
There's some incredible aspects of it, and there's some things that I'm really concerned about. The biggest is, like we just mentioned, the taxes tied to a lot of these deals, the way they're structured. NIL is a very powerful tool to help you attract the right student, right athlete. In a lot of cases, they will tell you you can't pay a player directly, and now that's even changed, right? So now you've got schools where once upon a time the collective was kind of their arm's length way of providing a benefit to a given student. Now the universities are able to pay them directly, all right, up to a maximum cap. But nevertheless, you've got a lot of kids getting money, and they are not employees of the institution, right? So that means they're not a W-2 employee. That means that they are a 1099 or an independent contractor. And as you may know, when you're in the entrepreneurial world and you're a 1099, who's responsible for paying the taxes?
Yeah, you are.
It doesn't get withheld in a pay stub. Right?
Yeah.
So we're finding the biggest challenge is you're seeing kids, young adults get these NIL checks, $5,000 on up to $500,000. And in a lot of cases, they believe that they can spend every bit of that amount. And then when that company that sent them the NIL dollar says, hey, here's your 1099, you received $500,000 from us, which, by the way, a 1099 means it gets reported to the government, right?
Yep.
Now they're on the hook to pay taxes on a pretty significant amount that they've squandered doing something else. So now,
FICA and everything, right? I mean,
absolutely, and it's just not a consideration. I had another client that received a check for $100,000 in NIL and spent $100,000 of NIL. And when it came to paying the taxes, he was like, where am I supposed to get that money? I'm like, you were supposed to get it from the $100,000. I have another guy that we have taken on from Georgia. And Georgia was paying essentially a monthly stipend to its players in excess of $3,000 a month. So this, kid got $40,000 a year, again, as a 1099. And he had no idea that he owed money on that. He thought it was just coming from the school or the collective in this case, had no understanding that they still owed taxes on those dollars. So really the biggest, unfortunately, the biggest negative I see is that you're probably going to see some people get in trouble with tax evasion as we go forward. Probably the next 2-3 years, when you see these kids get these really big checks, $300, $400, $500 million checks, and they're spending the entire amount, but they're not paying taxes on it. So hopefully we don't see some kids go to jail for it, but tax evasion is a real thing. You see a lot of athletes, entertainers go to jail or get into pretty serious consequences on the heels of not having paid their tax liability. So that's probably the biggest thing I see there. On the other side of it, I really think the NIL can be a powerful tool for someone who knows what to do and manage it the right way, whether that be an investment in the stock market or taking that to buy real estate properties, or looking to give back to their community because they've done so much for them as they were a youth or an adolescence. It could be very, very powerful if done the right way. So assuming that you've got an ambassador or a financial advisor like myself, a wealth manager who can kind of help guide that process, boy, that could give a lot back to the community. Younger kids that look up and idolize that particular player, also help themselves set themselves up for that first retirement, as we like to call it. Most of these guys and gals aren't going to make it past, call it 5 to 6 years in their professional career at maximum, right?
Right.
So the average is 2 to 3 years in any profession. dealing with sports. So you can imagine, we tell people they've got 2 retirements. You essentially have your retirement from sport of choice, and then hopefully retirement when you're
Whatever that
70
next
years
thing
old.
is. Yeah.
So you've got 2 retirements. So how do we make that transition as seamless as possible for you so that you don't get out of your sport and be like, I don't even know who I am. I don't know what to do. I now have, 10% left of the money that I once received because I didn't know this was going to be a situation. And maybe the job opportunities aren't there for me like I thought they would be. So we're trying to help them in all aspects of that. So it's a seamless transition out of the sport. And I'd love for them to play longer. I'd love to, hey, I hope you have a 10-year, 15-year career. I hope you are Tom Brady. I hope you're playing when you're 40 years old. But the numbers suggest to us,
Right.
You've got a 2 or 3 year career on the horizon. So let's prepare for that adequately.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So let's back up a little bit. You talked about your entrepreneurial mind, that entrepreneurial brain that you have, and I know a little bit your family, know your brother. He's wired the same way, I think.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Where does that entrepreneurial spirit come from?
My dad was a business owner and modeled some of that for us, and so was my mom. They were both very entrepreneurial in nature.
Oh, so there you go.
Started a medical practice downtown on 9th and Hill Street. I believe it was Louisville Family Medical, Louisville Primary Medicine, sorry. And that was in the West End, catering to a lot of less fortunate part of that community down there. But he brought that up, pretty much bought out an older physician once upon a time and grew that from being 7th and Hill Family Medical to 9th and Hill, it was Louisville Primary Care Center. So he had the whole block, right?
Wow.
And during that time, he would at least communicate with us the idea of not having all your eggs in one basket. So not only did he have that, but there was some real estate he had some gas stations. There were other things he was doing that really kind of promoted that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
To say this, my mom on the other side, before my sisters were born, started her own business called By the Yard. By the Yard was an interior design and a fabric store where my brother and I spent many, many days around Chenoweth Square. We were up at the convenience store drinking slush puppies while she was creating a business that was focused on interior design. And so, call it what you will, but if you sit there and you're listening, even if it's by osmosis, you've got parents that do have an entrepreneurial spirit. And I have to believe that in a lot of ways, Tendai and I probably took on some of that. And quite frankly, it's just innate. I enjoy this a lot more, having started in the investment advisory business right out of school. They are very, very free-spirited when it comes to the way you model your business. At least they were, 20 some odd years ago. So the demographic of who you want to work with, who's going to be your clientele, what niche do you think is best for you? How are you going to market that? Are you going to go out to networking events? Are you just going to make a bunch of cold calls? Are you going to do webinar? I mean, the world's your oyster when it comes to that. No one's telling you a recipe or a template to use. There's certainly some more successful templates than others, but that's where that comes from. Yeah. And I was able to parlay some of those experiences I had in my more formal advisory career with UBS and with Raymond James, even Stifel Nicholas, to really drive what I'm doing on the independent side. And that's how we've gotten where we are.
Yeah. There's kind of a threefold measure, if you will, for a successful business opportunity. When people come to me and go, I'm thinking I ought to do this. Yeah. And it's like, what do your skills, do you have the skills for it? Yeah. And do you have the passion for it? Those are great. You obviously have both of those, right? You're UBS and you're an athlete as well. Yeah. So you got that. Yeah. The third is, will people pay for it? That's the one people a lot of times forget. They're like, oh, I want to, I don't know, do whatever. It's something crazy. And it's like, nobody will pay for it. Therefore you have no business. Yeah. You're in a real sweet spot from that standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, Interestingly enough, there was a window where trying to monetize what I was doing was very difficult. There are people that like education and advice for free.
Yeah. Really, as a coach, I've never run across that ever.
So I have this thing where it's like, I want to be able to explore the passion side of the business and mentor as many students or as many people that need my help and be a steward there. But that only comes if I'm able to monetize what my expertise and skill set is. And I
Yeah.
start teaching a lot of this to the athletes that we have, because the athlete thinks that the only way that they can make money is through that particular skill, right? Football,
Right.
basketball, soccer. Well, that's how I'm gonna make money. Well, no, you've got this entire audience that you can leverage right now to monetize
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah.
What happens if you like cooking? What happens if you like working out? What happens if you're a big fan of music? What happens if you like reading? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, let's create a platform, a website where someone can go, hey, John Smith had a hell of a game last night. I'm gonna go click on his website. Oh, by the way, John's really into cooking.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he starts attracting people that have similar focuses, similar affinities. Right. And next thing you know, he's got a cooking deal, right? Yeah. So then it becomes John just doing what he enjoys doing anyway.
Yeah.
And we were able to monetize it. So imagine that scenario where I really enjoy what I'm doing, which I do.
Yeah. It's written all over your face, man.
And I get to work with other college football players and other athletes in general, whether it's a college soccer player, a women's basketball player, a baseball player. We have a couple of people that are horse riders, barrel riders.
Oh, wow.
But I get to monetize something I already enjoy doing. And
Absolutely.
For me, that's where it doesn't feel like work. It's just like, I'm going to go hang out on this field, talk to these people, educate them about what they need to do with this resource when they get it, and everybody's good. And the fee structures that we use are not transactional anymore. So I'm not, once upon a time when I started, it was, here's a commission for each trade I do. Here's a commission for each thing I do. These days, we do everything on a fee basis. So it's just a management fee for service. So no matter how often we're talking or doing things, the fees don't change. And everybody creates a win-win there. It's a much more equitable relationship for everybody involved.
Yeah. I can relate so much of that, and there's real wisdom there for people listening. People want to get paid for things. Like I said, sometimes they're not. Like I said, everybody wants free education. People are always coming to me going, "Hey, John, will you come speak to our group and do this and that?" And I do as much of that as I can. Yeah, because I have paying. I have paying clients that pay me enough that I can afford to do the stuff. Correct. But you have to learn how to balance that. You have to say, you know what, I can't do that all the time, because then I'd have no money coming in.
Right. And that's like the best example I can give you is I coach high school football.
Oh, good.
And I try to do that as often as possible. Keeps me close to the game, keeps me close to kids. I enjoy it. I like to feel like I'm still a player, even though I know I'm not. But if I'm not having an opportunity to monetize my day or get paid for my skill set, there's no way I could spend the time volunteering to coach. Any coach you talk to that coaches high school level football sports or sports in general, they'll tell you, if you really crunch the numbers, you're probably getting paid a couple bucks an hour for the number of the amount of time you're spending working with students. You're not doing it for the money. But again, I can't do that unless I'm getting paid during the day to do my business. So not commoditizing myself, and also having the confidence to tell people, hey, this is what we've charged. And this is an expertise you're not going to get just anywhere. Has to be part of that entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah. I have to ask for the sale.
Right.
Would you like to work with me? Do you want to move forward today? Are these things that are of interest to you? And if so, let's move forward. I mean, those questions, if you don't ask for the business 50% of the time, you're not going to get it.
Yeah. That is so true. And I came from an IT background, corporate IT. I never asked for a sale. Right. And then suddenly I'm out here asking for a sale. And that was a hard transition.
That's the biggest entrepreneurial lesson I learned. And My managerial partner, managing partner, sorry, he echoes that all the time. He's like, Pi, you are so good at asking for the business at the end of a call. There's a window of opportunity in a lot of our calls where it's time. We've given them the information. We've provided an opportunity to listen to what their needs are, and then shown them where we can add value. And at some point, if you're just kind of dilly-dallying at that point, you gotta ask for the business. Like, is this something you'd like to move forward with? Guys, gals, anyone, entrepreneurs struggle with that because what's on the other side of that is a potential no, right? And people don't want to hear that. What I've done,
I teach in my sales training, I teach all the time. The faster you get to the no, the better off you are.
I'm telling you, I heard that in my entire entrepreneur career. It's like, how many no's is it going to take for us to get to the yes? The more no's we get, the quicker we're going to be to a yes. And so I drive through that thing every time. Now, I'm not overzealous with it, but certainly will make a point at the end of a conversation when the time is right to ask for the business with confidence and feel good about what you're doing and feel okay about getting paid. Things like that are honestly, I feel like they're learned skills. Some people have it innately, but I didn't just wake up one morning and do it. Over time, I developed the aptitude to do that as well.
Yeah, it takes that, we say that 5 seconds of courage to get it out of your mouth. We build up to it, but we sometimes, and it was a hard thing for me to learn.
Absolutely. And like I said, I mean, usually it's because no one likes feeling rejected. No one wants to get a no, but for guys like ourselves, I mean, that's the nature of being in sales. And quite frankly, there's two sides of what we do. I mean, as advisors, my goal is where I'm just doing the advising and the consulting. But when you're growing a business, where are you going to get the clients? So I spend a lot of time prospecting for new clients, right? I'm not at a stage in this where we just have client after client coming in. In a lot of cases, I'm still out meeting new people, hosting webinars, going to events that are fruitful and beneficial for us where I can get exposure, asking for the meeting, and in turn putting myself in position to ask for the business.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, you're going to get there with your smile, your charisma, man. You got the package. I
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I usually stop or wrap up with a question about advice for the younger entrepreneur. You've given a ton of it, but is there anything we've left out? Anything you would add as advice to that younger entrepreneurial minded young man or woman out there thinking?
Ask a lot of questions and rely on your network. When I started any entrepreneurial endeavor I've ever started, I asked a ton of questions, even though I thought they weren't meaningful or stupid or whatever the case may be. I went to the people I trusted or the people I heard about, and I asked them all kinds of questions. People typically, if you go to them in authenticity, usually are comfortable providing you with insights. People like doing that for people they think are coming of pure motivation, right?
Yeah.
And so I asked a ton of questions, and then I have built a network of people that can help me in every case. What I've realized is that I may have expertise when it comes to sports and wealth management, but maybe I don't from accounting standpoint, or maybe I don't from a CRM or client relation manager standpoint, or from a marketing standpoint. So I relied very heavily on experts in their arenas to help build what I want. So for me, network is everything. Try not to burn bridges, as we've all heard before.
Oh yeah.
I ask a ton of questions, and then I model my business success after people I've seen that have done very, very well in my industry. And go from there. We don't always need to reinvent the wheel. I have little nuances that other guys don't. That's how I'm doing what I'm doing, because I've got my own niche that a lot of people don't. You essentially can look at a template of how someone's running a business, and then with some nuances or wrinkles, make it your own. That's what I've been able to do.
Yeah, that's some great advice. The niche, people overlook that. That's something I know I struggled with for a while. I finally figured that out. And the asking question is so true. I mean, my first big client was a CEO of pretty good sized company, and he was a friend, and I just took him out to lunch just to pick his brain about being an entrepreneur. And by the end of the meal, he's like, well, what? He actually asked me for the business.
Why?
He's like, why haven't you asked me to come coach my team? And I went, I don't have a good.
That is like, people will know that you are invested in what they're doing if you don't just sit up here and toot your horn. I will see a lot of financial advisors spend the first, let's say you have an hour-long appointment. They'll spend the first 20 minutes, maybe longer, telling them about their history, telling them all about their career. Here's how I started. I run $100 million in assets. I do all that. There's at the table with you. You've got instant credibility.
Right.
There may be some things they want to know more about you, but you don't have to give them your have to give them your autobiography sitting there at the table with them. They're there, right? They want to hear about your expertise, but more importantly, how you're going to be a benefit to them, where their interests lie. Like identifying those interests and those needs and uncovering a lot of that stuff is the basis for everything I do. I spend most of the first part of the meeting learning as much as I can about them.
Yeah.
I don't even talk about myself very much. We're already at the table. They know what we're here for. So it's going to be a lot of questions I'm peppering them with questions about what their likes, what their history is, where are they running into troubles, where's the hole in their business, what are their concerns, what are they fearful of? Talk to me about how your vision for what retirement looks like, all these good things. And by the time they've answered all those questions, I've got a pretty good model of what their accounts should look like and what their financial plan should look like going forward. It may change, it may deviate from time to time. Life is dynamic, but I got a pretty good snapshot right there. So don't spend so much time talking about yourself as you do learning and listening from the person sitting across the table from you. That would be my other advice. Yeah,
that's great. Well, Pai, thank you so much for your time today. This has been just a real pleasure talking to you. I've enjoyed this. I love hearing the energy. I love hearing the passion. That's what I love to see in entrepreneurs. And so thank you for your time. We'll add your contact information, and if anybody wants to reach out to you, I know you're on LinkedIn. Yep. And hopefully
I've got a LinkedIn page, which is me, Pai Charisika. We've got Instagram is Pro Athlete Wealth, at Pro Athlete Wealth. Okay. We do the same with TikTok. That's at Pro Athlete Wealth. And I've got a YouTube channel as well, also Pro Athlete Wealth. So all that stuff is out there for you to take a look and try and find me.
Excellent. You're a great resource for those athletes out there that need some financial advice. And we know a lot of them do. So I hope they'll find you.
John, this has been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
All right. You got it. See ya.
Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business.